Hey guys, this is Ryan. Going to talk to you about some knuck stuff. I'm sure we'll put this in a better video where someone's actually filming it and I'm not out here in my yard. But talk about some knuck stuff for a little bit. Being at the Texas show, I talked a lot of knucks, and I realized that people maybe don't understand some of the reasoning behind the design, which is probably true because I haven't talked about it. So I wanted to talk about some general knucks designs. This is the Snuckles. You know, we're starting to come out with some more knucks, but I want to talk about my philosophy with knucks. And my philosophy with knucks started when my blacksmithing mentor, Joe Humble, would talk about knucks. And Joe, you know, he grew up in the 30s, went to war during World War II, and was a revenuer in Louisiana after the war. So he had a lot of experience, and he was in New Orleans as a cop, so he had a lot of experience with blackjacks and knucks and things like that. In fact, he used to carry a big sap, big Texan. It was awesome. Anyway, Joe would talk about knucks and the pros and cons of knucks and how to use them, because I had an awesome childhood. And so this is my reasoning behind knucks. The first thing is you see a lot of knucks where the finger holes are very small. Part of that's because knucks a long time ago were just made for smaller people, right? But in my case, so knucks, if I'm going to be hitting something, and of course these are all for historical and collectible intent, mind you, I don't want you to go out and beating people. These are collector items, right? But I make collector items that are fully functional. That's part of the draw of collecting things, in my opinion. These finger stalls are big enough to where somebody with my hand could get in here and hold it. And a lot of people will look at it and say, well, I've got this gap here, it's just too big. And that's not the case. What you don't want happening is for your fingers to be rubbing up against the top of these, right? Because what you want is when you're striking something, that force translates to the palm and down your arm. What you don't want is force translating to your fingers, because that's going to break your hand, right? So the idea, a lot of people will hold this and they'll say, well, look, this is just way too big. Like, no, you want that air gap. You know, that's a pretty decent air gap for my hand, but it doesn't matter even if your hand's smaller. The point is you want your hand to be making contact here and here. And this gap up here makes no difference. As long as you've got good contact here and here, you're good to go as far as hitting. Now, the way I typically design knucks, I mean, I'll do historical replicas and they'll be different. But as far as stuff that I designed that's new, I focus on a couple of things, 3 things actually. I want to make sure that the front has single points of contact so that the force is being translated into that single point of contact. I don't want it to be going across an area. I want that piece hidden, so that all of the force is funneled into that one spot, right? And you'll see that on the knucks I'm machining now out of aluminum. You've got those points of contact that so you're not distributing the load. Another thing I like is for there to be some kind of surface for you to rake. Raking is something that's kind of an old, it's been done a long time. And the idea is, sorry about my compressor, the idea is that I'm not hitting with it, I'm raking up against a surface, like a face. And of course, you know, with the Snuckles, that's pretty brutally honest, brutally apparent. But a knuck should have some kind of broken surface up here, not just straight, so that I can rake with it. And third, and what I consider the most important, is that the sides of the knuck should have something for a hammer blow. Again, it's putting all of that force, concentrating that force into a single point so I can hit with a hammer blow, because you've got a lot more force, everybody does, with a hammer blow. It's just using a whole different set of muscles than you do with a punching blow. And a hammer blow is one of those things that's kind of Well, it's a natural reaction to things. So it's playing into that that the physics of your body and how it responds to threat. So that's my idea on knucks. I don't like knucks to be too thick, again, because you run into that issue of your fingers making too much contact and getting hurt. So I like this. It's about 3/8 of an inch, and that's about ideal in my opinion. You know, then you get into the argument of brass versus aluminum. Quite frankly, from a collector point of view, get what you like. People used brass originally because in the time period where these were being made, aluminum was actually way more expensive. So brass was an inexpensive way to do this and get some weight. However, the weight is it's an advantage if you have enough power to put behind it. It's a disadvantage if you don't. So aluminum, you know, will do just as much damage for the, you know, for what you're wanting to do with it. In my case, what I do with it is I hang them on the wall. And I've got Civil War knucks that are cast out of lead. I've got handmade knucks that were made just after World War II and used in the city takeover in Athens, Tennessee, when the World War II vets came in and basically threw out a corrupt government, which was awesome. So I think they have an interesting place in our history, and I just enjoy them. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed that and some of my thoughts about knucks. You know, this is not something we just throw together. Like these knucks right here, I started designing these probably 5 years ago, and I've probably got, I don't know, 2 solid months of design time into getting these where they are. So we don't take it lightly. We put a lot of thought and effort and stuff like this. Hope y'all enjoyed it. We'll talk to you later.